Have you ever had that feeling? Like you're just stuck on a treadmill in your own life. You know you've got potential, but somehow you keep ending up in the same kinds of frustrating jobs, the same situations, feeling like your real life just hasn't quite kicked off yet. Well, today we're going to unpack that exact feeling, we're going to give it a name, and most importantly, we're going to find a path forward.
And this feeling, it has a really powerful root cause. Dr. K from Healthy Gamer GG, he just nails it with this quote. What he's saying is that for so many of us, the engine behind our biggest life decisions isn't inspiration or passion. It's pure desperation. And that desperation, well, it traps us in a loop that feels absolutely impossible to escape.
So what does this cycle actually look like in the real world? It's a pattern that is so common, it might honestly feel like I'm reading a page right out of your own diary. Let's break it down.
Okay, so it all starts with that familiar creeping dread at a job, right? The negativity just builds and builds until, bam, you hit a breaking point. That's the peak of desperation. And in this moment of what feels like total freedom, you quit. But that relief, it doesn't last long, does it? Pretty soon, the panic about bills and rent kicks in, and you just scramble, grabbing the first lifeline you can find, not necessarily the right one. You settle, you get complacent, and before you know it, you're right back at step one.
This is the million-dollar question. If you find yourself in this loop over and over and over again, it's probably not just a string of bad luck with jobs or terrible bosses. This kind of repetition, it points to something much deeper, a psychological pattern that's running the show.
And that pattern, it actually has a name. It comes from a classic psychological archetype that, honestly, is more relevant today than ever before.
The term is Puer Aeternus. It's Latin for eternal child. You probably know it by its more modern, everyday name, Peter Pan syndrome. It's used to describe an adult who, no matter their actual age, is kind of stuck emotionally as an adolescent, always on the verge of starting their life, but never fully committing to it.
And right here, this is the tragic paradox of the eternal child. On one hand, these are often brilliant people, just bursting with potential and creativity and amazing ideas. But the reality? Well, the reality is a pattern of inconsistency. The second things get difficult or, just boring, they're out. They procrastinate, and when they're confronted about it, it's never their fault. It's always their parents, their boss, or just the system.
So what does this actually feel like on the inside? It's this core feeling of living a provisional life. It's like you're sitting in a waiting room, totally convinced that your real life, the one where you're fulfilled and using all that potential, is going to start someday, just not today.
Now let's take this timeless pattern and see what happens when you throw it into the pressure cooker of our modern world. Because if the Puer Aeternus is Peter Pan, then our digital world has become the ultimate, inescapable Neverland.
Think about it. Technology offers an endless buffet of exactly what the eternal child craves most, an escape from any kind of discomfort. Video games? They give you a huge sense of achievement without any real-world risk. Social media gives you that little hit of validation with just a click, a dopamine loop that makes your real job feel even more draining. And things like pornography can offer a form of intimacy without the messy, difficult, rewarding work of a real commitment. It's a perfect system for avoiding the friction of reality.
And this isn't some niche little problem. To really put it in perspective, platforms built on this very model of connection without commitment, like OnlyFans, have racked up over 220 million subscribers. That number just brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of our flight from real-world engagement.
So what's the consequence of living in this super high-stimulation digital world? Well, our brains adapt. And suddenly, real life, with all its nuances and its boredom and its slower pace, it starts to feel dull. It feels gray. This is actually a form of anhedonia, where your ability to experience pleasure from normal, everyday things gets reduced. Okay, so that's the trap. It's a deep one, and it's reinforced by pretty much our entire modern environment. But here's the good news. You are not doomed to be Peter Pan forever. There is a way to break this spell. The path forward, it begins by completely abandoning the search for some magic bullet. There is no secret career, no perfect partner that's going to suddenly make you grow up. The solution is found in the small, boring, mundane choices that you've probably been avoiding every single day. This is such a critical distinction to make. The goal isn't to kill your inner child. That's where all your creativity, your potential, and your playfulness live. No, the goal is to conquer the childishness, the procrastination, the fear of failure, the blame, and the sense of entitlement that are keeping that amazing inner child locked away.
Now, it's also really important to acknowledge that a lot of these patterns, procrastination, intense emotional swings, difficulty with routine, can absolutely be expressions of neurodivergence, like ADHD or autism. So this framework, it isn't about judgment or assigning blame. It's simply a tool for self-understanding, a way to observe a pattern no matter what its root cause might be. So how do we actually start building a life where that vibrant, creative inner child can finally thrive? Well, it all starts with the absolute basics.
Here's the thing. You can't think your way out of this. You have to act your way out. And it starts with the physical. Your sleep, your nutrition, just a basic routine for your body. Then you build awareness. You just start to notice that impulse to escape into your phone the second you feel a flicker of anxiety or boredom. Next, and this is the hard one, you have to learn to tolerate that boredom. And finally, you take mundane action. This is where the magic really is. Forget the grand 5-year plan for a minute. Just clean your room. Answer that one email you've been avoiding. Fix the thing that's been broken for weeks.
You know, tolerating boredom is like a muscle, and you can train it with some surprisingly simple exercises. Each one is like a small act of rebellion against constant stimulation. Try leaving your phone out of the bathroom. Go for a walk and just listen to the world, not a podcast. These tiny little choices start to retrain your brain to find reality engaging again, proving to yourself that you don't need to constantly escape. So, when it all comes down to it, the ultimate goal isn't to become some boring, joyless adult. It's to become a stable, responsible adult who can finally provide a safe and grounded home for all that wonderful creativity and potential that's inside you. So the question is, what small, mundane, powerful first stone will you lay today?